Hello and welcome to Ben Ross's Conservatorium of Audio. I'm Ben Rosser, and today we're going to be taking a bit of a look at the black art of music theory. We're going to take a bit of a look at some simple stuff to do with chords. We'll learn what a major chord is, what a minor chord is, how to do some chord inversion, and also how to expand some chords so you can get a few different interesting things happening. So we've just got a simple live session set up at the moment. We've just got a wave station set up on a MIDI channel, and we're just using a bowed strings preset. Something fairly simple, just so that we can hear what we're working with. So the first thing we're going to be taking a look at is major and minor chords. So if we go into our MIDI clip, what we're going to do is we're just going to create a C major chord, so you can see what that one looks like. So if we just expand those notes there, just so they fill the whole bar for us, and we'll play that one. What defines a major chord, much like a minor chord, is the amount of semitones between the first and the second note and between the second and the third note. So for any major chord, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones in between the first and the second note, and then you've got 1, 2, 3 semitones in between the second and the third note. So it doesn't matter which note is the root of the chord, for example C in this case. If you use the 4-3 rule, then you will get a major chord. For example, if we wanted to set up a D major, we could just shift all of that up. Again, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones in between the first and the second note, and we've got 1, 2, 3 semitones in between the second and the third note. So this gives us a D major chord. With minor chords, it's very similar. We'll just go back to our C that we had before. As we mentioned, the first note will define what the root of the chord is, although once we get into chord inversions, it is slightly different. So for a minor chord, it's slightly different. We've got 3-4 instead of 4-3, so we just move that middle note down a semitone. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3 semitones in between the first and the second note, and 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones in between the second and the third note, which gives us a C minor chord. As you'll notice, with the minor chords, you tend to get something that's a little bit more eerie, sometimes a little bit more sadder, whereas your major chords can tend to give you something that's a bit more happier. So again, it doesn't matter which note you start on. If you use the 3-4 rule, then you will end up with a minor chord. So for example, just shift that up to D, which will give us a D minor chord, as opposed to the major chord if we shift that middle note up a semitone. And our minor. And there's no rule saying that you have to use all major chords or all minor chords in a particular piece of music. For example, you can find that by blending major and minor chords, you can sometimes get something interesting happening. So we'll stick with our D minor for the moment. We'll just move that one over a bit. And we're going to create a C major chord at the start. So we've got a C major chord and a D minor chord. And as we can see, those two do still fit together quite well. Just shorten the ends of those ones up a little bit. So even though one's a major and one's a minor, they do still tend to work. So what we're now going to have a look at is inverting these chords. So to give you an idea of what inverting a chord actually is, we'll actually show you, as that tends to be the easiest way to pick it up. So to go with our C major chord to our first inversion, we grab hold of our C note here, and we'll just shift that one up to the next C, an octave up. If we wanted to go to our second inversion, we grab our next note, and we also shift that one up an octave. And if we were to do a third inversion, what we would actually end up with is the same chord, one octave higher than we started. And the same thing happens by going backwards. If we start with the same C major that we had originally, we can grab hold of our top note and we can shift that one down an octave. Again, we can grab hold of the next note and we'll shift that one down an octave also. And we can also grab hold of our final note and just shift that one down. Which, much like when we were inverting upwards, this has given us the same C major chord, but just an octave lower than what we started with. So again, we'll just grab hold of that one and just shift it back up. We might actually go for something a bit different. We might go for our D minor chord that we had before. So again, 3 semitones between the first and the second note, 4 semitones between the second and the third note. There's a couple of different techniques you can use, but we're going to look at the simplest one, which involves taking our bottom note, shifting that one up an octave, and taking what was our top note and shifting that one down an octave. Which can give you a bit of an interesting feel. It can help space the notes out a little bit, give you a bit more room to work with, and you can also do interesting things like putting a different instrument on each note. Even if you're working with a standard C major or a minor chord or an inverted chord, sometimes if you want to create harmonies, you can get quite a good technique by putting a different instrument on each note rather than getting the same instrument to play all 3 notes. So that can be quite a handy technique. So I hope you've learnt something from our little chord tutorial. You've got something you can take away and try yourself. And I hope to see you again in another Ben Ross's Conservatorium of Audio tutorial. Thanks for watching.